Just answering questions with WAPTech. 2014 to 2023, which is a pretty long period of time, $75 billion in aid to Ukraine is listed. Also in 2018, Arlington, Virginia, or was it Las Vegas, Hunter Biden at 53 was seen smoking crack while driving a Porsche at 170 miles an hour to a hot tub party. Was he going from Virginia to Las Vegas? Let's dismantle this. A sports newspaper in Spain called Marca and other places keep reposting the same claim slightly altered. It's 170 miles an hour, 173 miles an hour, etc. That on a discarded laptop or a leaked 2018 photo or something, you can prove the following about Hunter Biden that's shocking. That at age 53, he filmed himself driving a car at excessive speed to a hot tub party while smoking crack somewhere between two cities. Arlington, Virginia, laws concerning possession of a crack pipe and usage of crack. You'd have to prove that it was an actual crack pipe. You'd have to prove under paraphernalia, and you'd have to prove that it contained a controlled substance from a photo or video you claim exists and keep bringing up. We'll do this. $2,500 fine, 12 months in jail for speeding. Same period of time and same amount of money for drug paraphernalia possession, apparently. Maximum of 1 to 10 years for possession. Do you have a listing of a previous occurrence in the state? Unless you have one on record that shows this is not the first offense, most of this disappears, and it's like, it's actually $1,000 for one and $2,500 for that. Let's just call it $5,000. Okay, so he pays $5,000 and leaves. And if it's your first offense, it's the same charge. Doesn't matter if you're Hunter Biden or not. Las Vegas, Nevada. Half-year jail time, $1,000 ticket, maximum for speeding. Period. $1,000 to have fun, driving too fast. 2 years is the jail time for possession, $1,000 fine, and a half-year jail sentence for drug paraphernalia. So it's 2 years maximum and $2,000 maximum. Because it's Vegas and they don't give a shit as much, I guess. I don't know. And again, if it's your first offense, it's still a felony, but they put you through diversion because you're an addict. How many of you know of somebody who has 1 or 2 drunk driving convictions and you don't seem to have a problem with them being barred from driving for life? Now, in the world of WAPTech, none of y'all will be allowed to drive after the first offense for the rest of your life, and you'd be required to ride around on a pink motor scooter to make sure everybody knew it. Pink motor scooters would be for drunk drivers. Go ahead, start posting in the comments. We all know which ones are driving those pink motor scooters now. I'm not a drunk, I just like pink. Seriously, if you don't want to get hit by a car, fucking hot pink. Barbie pink, the damn thing. But let's move on. Not that I wore a pink jacket at one point because it kept me from getting hit. Anyway, what this amounts to, when I look it up for first offense for anybody, the average actual timing, judge discretion, $4,500 fine and 2 to 4 years jails time in the 2 states. And then they parallel them down to 2 years total. And then it goes down to 1 year if you're in good behavior and agree to go to diversion and get a P test every damn week. And if it's actually the first offense, no jail time, and you spend, they max it out at $2,000 because it's for the driving and for the drug usage. What is he being convicted of? With evidence. He didn't pay his taxes properly, and when he paid it back, they decided, we don't want to throw you in jail because you paid your taxes. What about the other thing? What about Hillary Clinton? What about Yabbats? He lied about being a drug addict on a piece of paper trying to get a handgun or something. Meanwhile, until recently, I was in a state where I didn't have to fill out shit to buy a gun from somebody. So I wouldn't have been able to commit this problem crime of being an addict. Yes, it's against the law if you're an addict Even if you're using marijuana to get through chemotherapy, you're legally declared a criminal. You can't have a gun. But it's Hunter Biden, so I don't give a fuck about how irrational or stupid the laws are or how little time he'd be in jail. I want to make sure that Joe Biden can't be president because that's really what this is about. Nobody would give a shit about him other than that. How many of you can look up shit about Donald Trump's family members that got away with crap because he's related to them, even before he was a presidential candidate or the hero of apparently millions? How many of you know that a lot of shit went down that was just swept under the rug? Now let's get to that laptop in a minute, but let's get to Ukraine first. $75 billion. Okay, depending on where you look it up, from 2021 to 2023, pretty recently, $22 billion. Not done over a 37-day period of time, which is the equivalent amount of money that's spent by the military pissing it away on a couple of airplanes that will never fly, but hey, it's a fat cat government contract, or Area 51 where they're totally not up to something. But somehow, because this is stuff that we can count that happened during the Biden administration, oh shit! $4 billion in emergency humanitarian aid, food, health equipment, bandages, refugee support, getting them out of Ukraine so that the innocents and non-combatants can get away. $27 billion in financial support as funds, loans, etc. The loans have to be paid back. Funding suggestions, mostly. $47 billion in direct military aid total is one of the listings. This is the updated amount rounded up. I rounded it up. It doesn't add up to the $75 billion. I'm making it 78. I'm making it $80 billion. It's actually 46 point something billion dollars actual military aid. The rest of it's for helping people who are injured and feeding them and refugees and guaranteeing loans and try to help them take care of themselves. And there's also the $22 billion that's also mentioned as another number set. Special military operation escalation caused spending increases after the turn of 2022. During Trump administration 2017, he first offered lethal weapons aid and started the ball rolling to where the process would continue even if he wasn't president. But it's all Joe Biden's fault. Obama administration in 2014 offered non-lethal security assistance after Russia started attacking the country to flex on NATO. How does Ukraine get such a short time period to get $75 billion? Some of the stuff is glacially slow and started in Obama, continued with Trump not stopping it, and ended up happening only after the special operation where Putin decided not to declare it a war, but declare it something else so he could make sure that he could get away with it, which meant that Ukraine could legitimately say, we're being attacked, it's not an actual war, he won't call it a war, and apply to be part of NATO or whatever the fuck. You know, shoot yourself in some body part, Mr. Putin. But no, we have to ask, why did they get all that money so suddenly? Is it over a 2-year period of time or over a decade you're talking about? Nearly a decade, excuse me. The person only asked one other question, that was about crack smoking, fast driving, Hunter Biden, 1970s action movie icon character that has been made up around him, and pointed out a source that has a couple of stories about Hunter Biden that's using an impersonator in Europe who drives around in a Porsche at high speed on the Autobahn, recording himself being Hunter Biden, and sometimes he has his Porsche loaded with chicks. Might want to check on the license plate on that fucking thing. And yes, he's also done the same thing, specifically in Las Vegas, for a show. But no, that has to be Hunter Biden. Okay, we've all seen the pictures. I'm assuming he's guilty. Let's do that. You've got a year or 2 years if they don't decide to forgive it, because in each state this would be a first offense for a drug addict who's a chronic addict who keeps trying to get off of drugs, who drove over the speed limit so you could get a couple of $1,000s out of him in each state max and maybe get him thrown in jail for a year if you pushed it. and try not to look like you're doing it just because he's Joe Biden's son. Meanwhile, the average person does the same thing. It's a 6-month jail term in both states. And you charge them money. You basically make them pay a bill, you make them go through diversion therapy, or you throw them in jail for more than 6 months. But if they're just a little bit apologetic, and if they have a history of continually going into rehab, which Hunter does, guess what? They won't throw them in jail. They put them into rehab. They won't let them leave the building. They basically make the person go dry, cold turkey if needed, for about 6 months, and then they become outpatients. It's a 6-year sentence of trying to treat them because it's treated as addiction, not a politically opportunistic thing to beat some politician and an entire political party over the head with. Let's get to the discarded laptop. A computer shop owner who is visually impaired to the point that he's legally blind receives a laptop and cannot pick Hunter Biden out of a lineup. It gets left there for a while, and instead of doing what literally every computer shop and Goodwill does, erase the hard drive or take it out and destroy it, Paul Isaacs at the Mac shop, I forgot his name. He's got a bunch of parts to his name. At the Mac shop owner, decides to poke around in the drive and make a backup copy, call the FBI, and they give a copy to Rudy Giuliani. And then later on, after it goes through this totally cromulent chain of evidence, it ends up with Giuliani and a bunch of other people releasing data that is checked and found to be poorly faked because they didn't know how to change the time and date stamps on the file system. They didn't even bother. It just showed a date after it was dropped off, which means it was either modified by the computer shop owner, which he says he didn't do, or was modified by a bunch of people who have a political motivation to lie about this. And then finally, very importantly, every time this gets brought up and money gets wasted doing yet another congressional report, or whatever the fuck they call it that week, special operation, they find out they don't have evidence against them, or they deliberately try to avoid it because then it would end everything. If Hunter Biden went to jail for 10 years, solitary confinement, you wouldn't have anything to talk about. Evidence presented would result in $5,000 in fines, maybe 6 months in jail, or as an outpatient. And likely none of those, if you claim there's some sort of cabal protecting him. Oh, that's right, he got convicted of lying about being an addict when trying to get a gun. That's really what happened. And also not paying his taxes, but he finished paying him taxes after he got caught, and they decided not to throw him in jail because he really did pay his taxes back after the fact. That's the dirt you have on him, and that's supposed to get Joe Biden removed from office. Now, that's really the goal, and don't lie to me about it. Is he getting special treatment? Again, look up the maximum sentencing and look up the average sentencing normal people get if you don't want to be biased against him. It doesn't amount to a hill of shit. And I guarantee you, a photo presented by somebody who could have actually been a comic in another country is not admissible. But if you want it to be, you can keep bringing this up. Now I'm going to ask you once. Do you want to look up whether or not I got the time he would be in jail wrong? Because it's subject to variable interpretation. A maximum of 10 years. Please do. I'd like him to go away for 10 years. Everybody would. But still yell that I'm biased and that I'm a bastard for it. I got that last week. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck.